Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Okay, let us start with the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tatsat Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimad Jaya Pataka Swamantri Ramni Namacharya Padaya Nitya Kripa Padane Gauragata Dhamadaya Nagaragram Tarini. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna devotees. So we are reading from the Canto number 4, and this is called the chapter number 14. Let me give you a quick recap of what has happened so far, okay? Sorry for my voice. So this is a conversation that's happening between the great sage Maitreya and Vidura. So they were talking about the story of Vena. Okay, there was a very cruel king called Vena, and he was very cruel towards the subjects, and therefore he had to be killed by the sages. It's very surprising because generally the sages are very, very tolerant and they do not kill anybody. But in this story, we see the sages, they become very disturbed by Vena. We will see why they got so disturbed and why they killed this king. Generally, the sages were supposed to be very, very peaceful and non-violent. Why did they kill this cruel Vena? This was something that we have to hear, something that we should know. But something is very interesting because we are talking about a very cruel king, Vena. But somebody can ask, why are we talking about him then in this Bhagavatam class? There will be some connection with Krishna. What is that connection with Lord Krishna? We will find out. May not be in this chapter, but in the next chapter. So without connection to Krishna, that story would not be there in Bhagavatam. So every story in Bhagavatam, it is Shravana Mangalam. Shravana Mangalam means it is very good. It is very auspicious. So different kinds of rasas may be there in that. So for example, we also read about some dictators, right? That certain dictator from certain country is very strict. He gives this kind of punishments. That is mundane news. That is called Gramya Katha. That is not going to bring us any kind of auspiciousness. But these stories even if we hear about King Vena in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is very auspicious for us because it is a part of Srimad Bhagavatam. It purifies us. That is the beauty of Bhagavatam, that every shloka, every verse is glorification of Krishna, directly or indirectly. Okay, it is Krishna Katha. So let us see that today. So they saw that this King Vena was not a good person at all. He was very, very atrocious. So what makes a king atrocious? When a king is putting a lot of taxes and gives unreasonable punishments for the subjects and completely subjugates them, snatches away all their lands, then the king is called atrocious. And it's not new for us. Like, we are all from this country, India, and we have seen so many invasions, and we have seen so many atrocious kings ruling our country. Especially this is because of the Kali Yuga. And all these are also predicted in the Vedas. You'll be surprised to know that the foreign invasions of the British or whatever other kinds of invasion that have been predicted in the Shastras, including Bhagavatam also. Even in the Bhagavatam, in the 12th canto, you will see a brief mention of these invasions. And in Bhavishya Purana and in other Puranas, there's more detail. And it is said that there will be so many sinful races who will come to India and they will become the kings. And they will be very, very atrocious and ruthless. Right? So what do atrocious kings do? They take atrocious decisions. Right? And they kill so many people. Right? Just like our Jallianwala Bagh kind of a scenario. Right? Thousands and thousands and thousands of innocent civilians murdered, right? Or killing of people in the Amritsar temple, right? So this is atrocity, right? So this is what happens when atrocious kings come to power, right? So maybe whatever we are hearing, whatever incidents that I stated, are very less. King Vena did many more times. Maybe he did 100 times or 1,000 times more atrocities. We don't know. The exact things are not given here. We can only imagine. So what happened is people were very much subject to trouble. So when there is some kind of irregularity in the state, okay, people will not be able to do their duties properly, isn't it? Wherever there is atrocity, wherever there is anarchy, there's going to be a lot of problem, right? We were reading Prabhupada Leelamrita yesterday, okay, and it was about 1944, Prabhupada Leelamrita. Srila Prabhupada was observing what was happening at that point of time. What was happening in 1940s was, in India, there was a great movement that Muslims wanted a separate country, and there were a lot of riots that was happening. So I'm recollecting from the book. It said that earlier Muslims and Hindus were peacefully coexisting, but because of certain leaders and the Britishers, they started fighting. From centuries they did not fight so much, but they suddenly started fighting, started killing each other in thousands. And people were not able to stop these riots. There were riots everywhere, particularly in Kolkata. Thousands of people being killed, right? And they were trying all possible ways, but nobody was able to stop these riots from happening, right? So this is the kind of anarchy, right, that we're talking about. When there are so many riots, you cannot control the mob, you cannot control the public, and there'll be anarchy. And at that point of time, what do you think? The subjects or the people, citizens, will they be able to do their work peacefully? Let us say there is a simple businessman who has got a simple shop, chai ka dukan, he has got, okay. Will he be able to do peaceful business? when there are riots continuously and killing each other. It's not possible, right? So that means a strong king must be there for stability. So this is all given in the Vedas. You may be wondering why is all of this there in the Vedas? Of course, it should be there in the Vedas because Srimad Bhagavatam is called as the Vedasara. That means it is the essence of all the Vedic literatures. And the Vedas consist of different kinds of information. It has information about the politics, information about social structure, information about economics, and most importantly, information about the spirit soul. And most importantly, information about God, super soul, and how to worship Him. So everything is there in the Vedas. So as a part of the Vedas, it is also there, this kind of a political science, how political stability is very important for the nation, it is very much stressed. Krishna himself says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata, abhyudhanam adharmasya tadatmanam surjamyam. Krishna is saying, wherever there is irregularity, adharma, irreligion, Krishna himself takes incarnation. And then he stops this miscreants, right? We see the last avatar of Kali Yuga, that is Kalki. When Lord Krishna is going to come in the avatar of Kalki, that is after 4,27,000 years, he will see that there is anarchy everywhere. After 1,000 years, after 4,27,000 years, in the peak of Kali Yuga, people would have become very short-lived. They would be living only up to 20 years. If somebody lives for 20 years, they would say he has lived 100 years, like that. And there will be so many taxes. And people will run away from the cities and they will be staying in caves because they'll be scared of the kings. The kings will become plunderers, right? And people will not be able to peacefully live at all. And literally, the situation will be like, one human being will kill another and they will eat the other person because there's nothing else to eat, right? That is the situation. In that situation, Kalki comes and kills all the miscreant mlechas, all those people who are not following Krishna consciousness. They will all be finished by Kalki. So this is relevant, right? So wherever there is a religion, immediately it has to be checked, right? Otherwise, the subjects cannot be peacefully living. Also, it is said that if bad people are not punished, the good people will not be able to conduct their business as usual. Correct? Let us say that two businesses, one business is doing unfair business, the other one is doing fair business. So if you let the unfair business go on without stopping it, like the head of commerce, etc. So because of the wrong practices of commerce, there can be something like a monopoly and the fair business will go bankrupt. Is that correct? Similarly, there are some people who follow the rules, there are some people who do not. If you allow those people who are not following the rules and you do not punish them, what happens to those who are following? You are punishing them also, right? So this is all a part of the Vedas. It's all very relevant, okay? So now coming back to the story here, see, this was a political crisis, okay, where King Vena was not ready to listen to anybody. But the thing is, this King Vena is coming in a great lineage of sage Anga. So even though he was very mischievous, the sages thought, why don't we just go and talk to him? Okay, we will see what we can do. And then they thought, we'll do something and we'll try to pacify him, we'll try to talk to him, right? Otherwise, we cannot continue like this. Everybody is suffering here, right? So then they think that, okay, let us go and talk to him and try to convince him that don't be like this. Be a nice king. There are so many good examples, right? The great Rajarshis in this country who have come, right? Who have engaged people in devotional service, like Maharaj Ambarish, right? Like King Prithu Maharaj, Priyavrata Maharaj, Swayambhuva Manu. Extraordinary kings have come, right? Who were taking care of their subjects so perfectly well. And they used to engage the subjects in Krishna consciousness also. But what are you doing? Stop this. But if he is not going to listen, we'll kill him. We will curse him and we'll burn him to ashes. Therefore, they came to King Vena and they were very angry, but they concealed their anger and they spoke in soft words and they said, okay, we've come to give you some good advice. Please hear. If you hear us, you'll live very happily and with a lot of strength, and your name also will increase. Just follow dharma. Okay, dharma is very important, and do not follow adharma, right? And please do not follow the spiritual life of the living entities, all the human beings. If you spoil the spiritual life of millions of living entities, you're going to go to hell. This is very important. Okay, this is one of the questions that was asked by Yudhishthir Maharaj to Bhishma Pitamaha. Bhishma Pitamaha was giving an advice when he was on his deathbed. Yudhishthir Maharaj has a lengthy discussion with him about different topics, about Raja Dharma, about Moksha Dharma, about Bhagavata Dharma, about Sridhara, different types of Dharma, which Bhishma Pitamaha spoke about. So one of the questions that Yudhishthir Maharaj asks, like, what is the most important Dharma in a material sense? In material sense, Raja Dharma is the most important one, is what Bhishma Pitamaha says. Really, why is Raja Dharma so important? The stability of the kingdom, political stability is utmost important. You see, even if foreign investors wants to invest in one country, the first thing that they see is how stable is the country. For example, at the moment, Bangladesh is very unstable. Correct? So the foreign investors are withdrawing money out of the market because there is instability. FII will go, obviously. So this is the point. This is a simple point. Wherever there is political instability, people judge that it is not a good place to invest. It is not a good place to stay also. Forget about investment. You cannot stay there. People are living in fear. The devotees in Bangladesh are living in fear. Right? So similarly, there are so many war-torn nations like Ukraine or Syria, etc., where every day there is some instability, some kind of war, some kind of riot, some kind of civil war happening. You can't peacefully sit there and, sit down. You can't say, I will peacefully sit down here and I'll happily have my family life here, or I'll do my business, or I'll do chanting here. It's not possible. Right? So this has to be stopped. King has to be very strong. Political stability is the most important thing, Raja Dharma. Only then all the millions of peoples, the billions and millions of people, right? They can be peacefully doing their business and they can happily live. Right? So it has to be checked. That is the duty of the king. So this Raja Dharma, Kshatriya Dharma is not an ordinary duty. Right? It is not meant to be given to some foolish people based on some votes. Right? It's like this, right? There was a flight, aeroplane. In the midway of the flight, 30,000 feet above, the air hostess comes and says, we have changed our policy. We have a good news for all of you. And everybody say, okay, what's the policy? Now you people can select who should drive the aeroplane. We'll have a voting meter with you. You select. And everybody is confused. Really? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Should we be happy about it or sad about it? And he said, how are we going to select? We're going to let every passenger, first of all, we'll ask which passengers would like to come and stand for the election. And then they'll come and they'll speak about what is the kind of changes that they will do if they become the pilots. Right? And then there are some people, some smart people, intelligent people, or some people with leadership qualities or power hungry, you call them whatever you want, active people. They stood up and they said, okay, we want to be. And then one after the other, they start speaking charming words. If you're going to elect me as the pilot of the aeroplane, I'm going to give you free food. Everybody started clapping, cheering. Yes. The other guy said, if you're going to make me the aeroplane pilot, I'm going to make sure you're going to get 10 flights free. Then everybody start cheering loudly. Now tell me, what's the problem with this? Is this a good thing? What's going on here? Anyone? Is this okay? What is the problem with this? Hare Krishna. Are you able to hear me? I'm not able to hear anybody speak.
Prabhuji, we can hear you. Maybe, none of them have the experience driving, or they are not licensed to drive the flight. So it's very
Nobody is
dangerous.
thinking about that, right? That's the most important point. The person who is sitting in the cockpit may not be a very good speaker, may not be very charming, may not be able to do big promises. But his promise is that he is experienced, he can drive, right? So this is what is happening. So we cannot continue. This is not the most stable system, right? In such a system where you're electing people based on their charm and promises is not a very great system, right? So the proper system is this Varnashrama Dharma and the Kshatriya king system, where the king is very well trained, okay? Supposed to be very pious. Okay, this is the instruction. It's given in the Vedas. The king is supposed to be pious, and he should make the population do the Varnashrama Dharma. Because Varnashrama Dharma means worship of the Lord, Supreme Personality of God, Lord Vishnu. In the country where this Varnashrama Dharma is properly followed, they are all worshipping Lord Vishnu. See, when we are doing our Varnashrama Dharma, it is actually the worship of the Lord, okay? So like that, when the Supreme Lord must be worshipped by the Varnashrama Dharma, when Supreme Lord is worshipped, he is satisfied. When he is satisfied, all the demigods are satisfied. All the presiding deities of different planets are satisfied. If they are satisfied, there is nothing which is unattainable in the kingdom. Okay, all the prosperous things will happen. Right? We should not get very much allured by fake prosperity. See, the kind of countries which are the leading countries in the world right now, the prosperity that they have is fake. If you look at their statement, bank balance, right, you'll know that they are in trillions of dollars of debt. The topmost economies are in $1 trillion of debt. It's a joke because the treasury is the most important, is one of the 6 limbs of the kingdom. Okay, there should be a treasury, the kingdom, in the kingdom. But if people maintain a very great lifestyle only with loan or with debt, that's simply cheating, right? So US has a debt from China, which is its enemy country. So that means whatever taxes that they get, they pay in debt to China. Okay, this is all. It's a joke. It's a joke. We get allured. We think that okay, US is so advanced, but no, they are in a huge debt. This is not at all, common sense. So, anyways, coming back to the point here is that the proper system has to be followed. Okay, we cannot follow the so-called Westerners with their systems and stupidity and think that they are very advanced and we are very foolish. That's how we have been brainwashed. That our systems are foolish. We are foolish people. They're very civilized people. They've got a better system. No, we should stop this. So here is the thing, and the advice goes on, and he says, Brahmanas are supposed to be performing sacrifices, fire sacrifices. Fire sacrifices are essential. When you do fire sacrifices to the demigods, who are the expansions of the Supreme Lord, they become satisfied. And when they become satisfied, they give you the desired result. Right? If you stop these fire sacrifices, you're disrespecting the demigods. This is exactly what Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita too. Right? He says that, all the demigods have been created for this purpose, that they take the fire sacrifices offered by the public and then they give them boons in return. Right? So the demigods and human beings have been created for this purpose, that human beings do fire sacrifices for the demigods and the demigods immediately give them boons and benedictions. That's how there's prosperity. So don't stop this. And then, like this, after giving the thing, then comes the interesting part. The king Vena, he's a very notorious king, right? They don't like good advice, okay? These kind of dictatorial kings, if you go and tell them these kind of advices, they will obviously not like it. Let us see the screen. So, what do you think the reaction will be? He'll appreciate it. That, oh, thank you, dear sages. Thank you for giving me. You have opened my eyes. Okay, that's not going to happen. It's opposite is going to happen, obviously, right? Let's see that. And then the king Vena said, okay, you people are not at all experienced. So regrettable that you are maintaining something which is not religious and accepting as religious. Indeed, I think that you're giving up your real husband who maintains you and searching after something, some paramour to worship. Now see, this is something very serious. He is actually doing an offense. What is offense that he did here? He's saying that, just like a wife is supposed to be very pious or chaste towards her husband and not towards a paramour, right? Not as an extramarital affair, not to somebody else, right? But you people are behaving like that, like an unchaste wife. I am your husband, I am the king, you'll be chaste to me, and you're talking about some third person. Who is that third person? And he's given a very bad analogy here, which is very offensive, right, towards the Supreme Lord. Because here, these people are saying, do the fire sacrifices and let the Varnashrama Dharma happen. This is the basics of a prosperity of a country. Varnashrama Dharma, fire sacrifices happening, and devotional service, which will lead to devotional service, which is an indirect devotional service. These two things are also indirectly devotional service. Then Lord Vishnu is pleased at a state level, right? And then, of course, the devotional service. This is also one type of devotional service, yajna, right? Indirect worship of Lord Vishnu. And then he is offending Lord Vishnu now, the Supreme Lord, by saying these words. But let's see what he says. Those who out of gross ignorance do not worship the king, who is actually the Supreme Personality of God, experience happiness neither in the world nor in the neither in this world nor in the world after death. See, what he is saying has some truth in it in a material sense. What he's trying to say is, see, just like the Charvak Dharma. Charvak Dharma says, Charvak means atheistic theory, right? Charvak Shastra says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the king. Because the king can do anything. If he wants, king can give you acres of land. If the king wants, or the government, the head of the government wants, he can snatch away your property. Right? Sounds logical, sounds convincing at a material level. So, like, for example, we see in the news that the government, if they don't like somebody, what do? They get some, what do you call that? JCBs, right? Bulldozers. And they break the building, right? Or they'll snatch their property. Has happened so many times. They say, suddenly, they'll come and say, as per the property, as per these rules, this is government land, and you snatched government land. Because you built something on the government land, we're going to break your new building. And they'll break it off. And then later they can snatch off that land also. If they want, they can give lands. So therefore, king is the Supreme Lord. King can do anything, the head of the state. So that's what he is saying. There's no God. God what? Nothing. What God? King is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We should worship the king. If you don't be good with the king, you cannot be happy. But now he is going to the next level by saying, they do not experience neither in this world nor in the world after death. That is too much. Whatever the king can do is only, king is a representative of God. First point, Krishna says, among the men, I am the king. First point. So king is a representative of Krishna. And he is supposed to act like a representative. and the representative does not act like a representative, then we respect him, but he is no longer, having the he can no longer be considered as a representative of Krishna, in one sense, right? So that's the thing. So there's no meaning at all to this sentence when he says that they cannot be happy in this world nor in the world after death, right? There is a conversation that happened between Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Prabhupada. This happened in Kolkata, right? Srila Prabhupada, we read this in Vilamrita. Srila Prabhupada, when he was a young student, one of his friends came to him and said, "Come, let's go to meet somebody. A great saintly person has come." And Prabhupada was reluctant. He said, I've seen many, many Babas. They keep coming to our house every single day. My father feeds all these Babas. Every day there are 5 people who are eating in our house. Okay. I don't believe these Babas, because these Babas, they're all the time, they wear the saintly dress, but they're drinking ganja, all of this cigarette all the time, BD. They're doing sinful activities. I don't have any faith in these Babas. He says, no, he's not like that kind of a saint. Please come. He's a real saint, genuine. Let's go. And then he pestered, and then finally Prabhupada went and met him. And it was like in 1920s, I think. And then Prabhupada had a conversation, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, "You're speaking English so nicely. Why don't you preach the message of Lord Chaitanya in the Western world?" And Srila Prabhupada said, "Who will hear your message? Our country is colonized. It's a colony. We don't have independence. You're saying we will go to their country and preach Krishna consciousness. What is this? First, we need independence." Right? And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, the real independence is independence of the soul. And it does not depend upon the political conditions in the state. This is beyond the political conditions of the state. The political conditions of the state, they keep changing. All right? Sometimes there can be democracy, sometimes there can be monarchy. Sometimes there can be some party, sometimes there can be some other party. Party 1, party 2, party 3. Right? King 1, king 2, king 3. These things are going on all the time. It has got nothing to do with our devotional service. Happy are those people who do devotional service. Even amidst the greatest disturbance also, if you do devotional service, you can be happy. Right? When the COVID was there, everybody was very worried. At that point of time, the devotees were so happy. I remember that was the best time. Because we got so much of time, so much of association. We could never get association of the devotees, our mentors. And I could hear so much, and they were giving us so much time, and we were sitting and reading Srimad Bhagavatam very peacefully, happily. This is what happens, So, real happiness actually comes from Krishna consciousness, not from anything else. And after death, also, it depends upon how Krishna conscious we are. Different possibilities. If you are fully Krishna conscious at the time of death, you go back to Godhead. The entire problem equation of happiness is solved forever. You are going to be happy forever. Otherwise, based on the karmic reactions, if we do a little bit of devotional service, let us say, for a prolonged time, we get birth in the family of a devotee. That's the next best thing that can happen. Or if we have not done devotional service so much, we did only a little bit of devotional service, then we get birth in a pious family. If there is no devotional service at all, there are more offenses than devotional service, then we get a birth as an animal. So there are 84 lakh species of life. We have taken millions of births in millions of countries. Right? We don't know which all countries we are from. I don't know. I may be from China in the previous lifetime. Who knows? I'm saying. Which country we were born in the last lifetime. Isn't it? So, thousands of kings, millions of political stabilities. So all of this, we should look at a big picture. Okay, this is a big picture. Krishna consciousness is big picture. Looking at it from 30,000 feet. When you look at it from very close, you see something. But when you look at it from the height, you see something else. Like when you're going in the flight, you see all the buildings will look very small, tiny. You will see something else. Okay, you will see, okay, this is a highway. But when you're on the road, you see everything looks very big. So it is a perspective. So from a very low level perspective, he's speaking. Okay, he's not speaking from a high perspective, lower perspective. Saying you're so much devoted to these demigods. Who are these demigods? Now he's insulting the demigods. Right? He's saying it's like an unchaste woman who neglects his married life and gives attention to the paramour. You're behaving like an unchaste woman. Why are you worshipping these demigods? What is going on here? Worship me. Lord Vishnu, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Indra, Vayu, master of air, Yama, the sun god, Kuvera, Agni, Varuna, all of them abide in the body of the king. For this king, the king is known as a reservoir of demigods, or simply part and parcels of the king's body. This is too much. He's saying demigods are part and parcel of me. Because whatever I say is going to be the final thing. I am the dictator, I am the king. Right? So I am Vishnu, I am Brahma, I am Shiva, I am everything. Right? Saying, for this reason, stop your envy on me and stop your ritualistic practices aimed at some people who are a part and parcel of me. They're very inferior to me. They're a part of my body. Do you understand? The king has everybody. King has Vishnu, king has everything. Should be worshipping me. Right? So there's nobody superior to me. There's no personality superior to me. You give the fire sacrifices to me. Worship me. Praise me. Just like Hiranyakashipu, right? When he became the king, he said everybody should worship Om Namo Hiranyakashipaya Namaha. Something like that. Mantra. Worship Hiranyakashipu. Chant my names. Chant my glories. Chant my story. Glorify me. This is a demoniac king, right? So obsessed that he is not able to see Krishna. He's completely forgotten. And he's looking at some materialistic parts of the Vedas and he's quoting them. And he's saying, a king is also Yama. A king is also the maintainer. A king is also destroyer. Because king does all of that. He's doing the function of maintenance. He's doing the function of destruction. He's doing the function of Yama by giving punishments, all of that. So he's quoting all of that. So this is what happens when a very materialistic person reads Vedas. The Vedas are not to be interpreted by materialistic people. The Vedas are to be interpreted only by the devotees. Right? So there is to be only the spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master must interpret the Vedas. It is not that I randomly take some quotes from here and there, stitch it together and come up with some philosophy. This is not how Vedas work. That is not the process of Vedas. The process of Vedas is it has to be taken as it is, point number one. Point number two, only bona fide spiritual master, only in the bona fide sampradayas. That's it. Finished. There is no deviation allowed. If there is deviation, it is only the foolishness of the public. That's it. It's not meant to be like that. If we follow such kind of deviant philosophies, we will become a deviant. That's it. If somebody says, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am Shivoham, I am Shiva, I am Vishnu, this is all demoniac, nothing else. Okay, so this is what Vena is also saying. He's saying, I am Vishnu, I am Shiva, I am everything. Worship me. But foolish public don't realize this, right? We have to understand this. There's no difference between Vena and any person who says, I am the Supreme. So the king continued and he said, The great Maitreya continued. The king became unintelligent due to sinful life and deviation from the right path, and became bereft of the good fortune. He could not accept the request of the great sages, which sages put before him with great respect, and therefore he was condemned. The sages have come and nicely, respectfully, they are saying something. My dear king, don't do this. Please. Please try to understand. We'll teach you some nice things. See, the sages, this is the duty of the sages, okay? The sages always try to counsel the king, right? The king has to follow the sages, right? So when did this happen in the past? When Duryodhana, he snatched away the property of Pandavas. Some saintly kings came and advised Duryodhana, Duryodhana, please stop, right? And even Dhritarashtra also, they advised. They said, stop it. Stop your attachment towards your son. Your son is a sinful person. You are troubling the great Pandavas who are so pious, and Krishna is with them. Why are you doing this? Don't do it. This is irreligion. This kingdom doesn't belong to you. It belongs to your brother, Pandu Maharaj. Give that kingdom to them. But Dhritarashtra said, sorry. At the moment, I am not able to distinguish what is right, what is wrong. And Duryodhana said, I understand what you're saying is right. I understand what I'm doing is wrong. But this is what I am. I will be what I am. I cannot be what you want me to be. I am what I am. Right? This is very sinful. This is not a humble attitude, right? This is what Veda is having. Saying, I don't want advice from you people. So, then the foolish king, he thought he is very learned. He's quoting some materialistic parts of the Vedas and he's thinking he's very learned. Like a foolish, deviant teacher. Right? And then all the great saintly kings immediately cried, kill him, kill him, kill him. One interesting point I'll mention. Srila Prabhupada, if we read his Leelamrita, it's very interesting to note that when there was political instability, he was trying to help out. He wrote the Back to Godhead magazine and decided that yesterday one of the purposes of Back to Godhead magazine was to educate the public, to tell them the spiritual path. That the real solution for this Hindu-Muslim right is to actually realize you are neither a Hindu nor a Muslim. You are the spirit soul. You are the eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of God. So simply by breaking the mosque or breaking the temple, you are not killing anybody's God. God cannot be killed by killing or by breaking temples or mosques. God is staying in the heart of every living entity. God is all pervasive. God is staying in his eternal abode. Please understand this and do devotional service instead of getting into this nonsense. The so-called external religion is not going to take you anywhere. It's just simply a boosting of our false ego. That's it. Okay. The real dharma is to worship Krishna in loving devotional service. Right? He was trying to give this message to everybody with the help of his magazine, right? Back to Godhead. So he was going to every streets and distributing this with a view that these riots will stop. Even when there was in the 1970s, Srila Prabhupada met Indira Gandhi. There was a meeting arranged, okay, and he wanted to say something. That he wanted to say that his view was the Rajya Sabha is supposed to be having the Brahmanas. That is the viewpoint of Srila Prabhupada. It is not meant for some cricketers. It's not a time pass ground that some cricketer will go there, or some musician or a comedian or a dancer will go there and sit. We are so foolish, isn't it? We are bringing this kind of people into the Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha is meant to be having Brahmanas. Right? The Brahmanas give advice. The kind of advice the sages are giving. Right? To engage all the people in devotional service, in religious activities. And what are we doing? People of Rajya Sabha, they're bringing so many stupid laws. Okay, they're spoiling the religion of the country actually. Okay. I don't want to get into some details now. Okay. Here is the point. So the sages always get disturbed. Right? The sages have compassion for everybody. That's why Srila Prabhupada went to meet and he wanted to talk to Indira Gandhi. But somehow that meeting didn't happen. What happened was Indira Gandhi met Srila Prabhupada and she was unable to speak. She said, "I'm so sorry, I cannot talk to you. There is some emergency." At that point of time, there was some prediction that they were trying to kill Indira Gandhi. Right? So at that point of time, she said, "Sorry, I cannot talk to you right now. I'm in some kind of an emergency. There's a high alert." So then Prabhupada had to return. Okay. Yeah, it would have been interesting if Prabhupada could have met her and tried to convince her, right, that his devotees should be actually there in the Rajya Sabha. No, they can give proper guidance to the society. How the society should be in Sattva Guna, right? Like how Prabhupada says, it's very clear, simple. Okay, Prabhupada says in Srimad Bhagavatam, first thing the king should do is stop the animal slaughter. Stop all the slaughterhouses. What's happening in the country? Only Uttarakhand is the only, Uttaranchal, I think. Uttaranchal is the only, Uttarakhand or Uttaranchal, I'm not sure. One of the states has abolished cow slaughter. They have abolished cow slaughter, not allowed. None of the states has it. We are allowing cow slaughter. Right, and we are saying we are great Hindus. What is going on? We have no idea what is happening, right? And we are expecting peace, prosperity, everything, and we are foolishly following the West. It's all chaos, okay? So Prabhupada spoke, and he said, he wrote this. He would have obviously brought all these rules that animal slaughter must be banned. Right. There's a very nice purport in the first canto that Srila Prabhupada writes a lot of these things. The 4 regulative principles must be followed. Right? Animal slaughter must be banned. And he has given very nice principles how we should stop different kinds of violence towards living entities. Okay. So yes, this is how the sages think. Right? The great saintly people. And now the sages had to take things into their hands because the sinful king was not ready to listen. Now they said, "Hanyatam, hanyatam esha, papa prakriti darunaha, jivan jagad asavasu, kurute bhasmasat dhruvam." All the great saintly sages immediately killed. Kill him. He's the most dreadful, sinful person. If he lives, he will certainly turn the whole world into ashes in no time. Then they said, "This impious, impudent man does not deserve to sit on the throne. He is so shameless that he dared to insult the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu." Somebody can ask, like, where was the insult? What was the insult that he did? Right? He said that your affection towards the Supreme Lord and not having faith towards me instead is like a relationship with a paramour. That is the offense. Actually, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. In the Vishnu Sahasranama, Krishna's name is given as Bharta. Right? And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "Prabhu Sakshi, Jagat Bharta." So Lord Krishna is the Prabhu or Bharta, or the original husband of all the living entities. For all the living entities, if there is husband, that is Pati, that is Krishna. That is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he is telling the opposite. He is saying that I am your husband and he is not. So this is a very offensive. And he said, "Why are you chaste towards such a person instead of me?" Right? You should be chaste towards me. And they are all part and parcel of me. Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, everybody is my part. So they could not tolerate these people. This kind of an offense, right? So here is an important lesson here, okay, for us. We should not tolerate the blasphemy or insult against Lord Vishnu or his devotees. This is an important principle. See, the devotees are very peaceful people. They don't resist. Okay, even if somebody insults them or even tries to kill them or curse them also, the devotees do not retaliate. That is the greatness of a Vaishnava. But a devotee never tolerates the offense towards the Supreme Lord or towards the other devotees. Just like Lord Hanuman. He is peaceful, calm, very nice, very saintly, until you do not offend Lord Ram or offend Sita Devi. When Sita Devi is troubled, Hanuman will become very agitated. He will burn the Lanka. When Lord Ram is insulted, he will burn the Lanka. That should be a devotee. That is devotee. It's not that devotee should not be like an artificial spiritual person who is like, saying, I'm very humble person, I'm very meek person. So, okay, you continue to blaspheme Lord Vishnu, I'll keep hearing. Okay, you continue to blaspheme the Supreme Lord, I'll just keep hearing. You continue to blaspheme devotees, I'll just keep hearing. No, this is not at all a devotee. This is pseudo devotee. Devotee must get agitated. He should become angry. It says anger is a vice, but it is not a vice when applied properly, right? Anger must be applied towards those people who are offending the devotees, who are offending Lord Vishnu. That is the real application of anger. That is angerlessness. It is not anger at all. If you do not become angry, then it is something else. Okay, it's like some kind of a fake practice. It's not real Krishna consciousness. It's not a spiritual practice at all. Because simply you are hearing whatever blasphemy that they are doing to the Lord Vishnu. We should immediately retaliate. If somebody says something against the parampara, something against the saintly people, something against Prabhupada, something against any acharya, we should know expertly how to cut the argument. Right? Or we should leave that place. We should not just sit and hear that. So these people, they did the right thing. They got very extremely angry. Right? They said, this king who is inauspicious is blaspheming the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose mercy one is awarded all kinds of fortune and opulence. Such a beautiful connection. This is the reason why we are studying Vena's story. King Vena is an impious person, cruel person, atrocious person. But we don't discuss about dictators here. We are not sitting here and discussing all the dictators' stories, political crisis. We're discussing because it is Krishna Katha. It has connection with Krishna. This is the one single verse which is the bridge, the connection. Such a beautiful verse. In one single verse, there is a extreme depth that has come to the entire chapter. That says, the Supreme, who is giving, the king is, he said, Vena said, the king is very great and everybody is my part and parcel. But the question which we should have asked is, who made him the king? By whose mercy did this guy become the king? By whose mercy? It is by Krishna's mercy. It is by Krishna's mercy one becomes a king or one becomes a pauper. How are we forgetting this? We have forgotten this, isn't it? By whose mercy are who we are today? We have forgotten. Let's be real. Let's face it. Because we have forgotten, now we are challenging the position of God. We are asking the question, why should I do Krishna consciousness? We should do Krishna consciousness because by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are what we are today. We should not forget this. Right? All the opulences, all the fortune, whatever that we have in our life is because of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We cannot be thankless. We should be thankful. Right? There are two types of people. There are grateful peoples and there are great fools. Either you can be a grateful or you can be a great fool. So we should be grateful to Lord. Right? So let us see. And then the sages, they became very angry. And of course, they were manifesting a covert anger. And they immediately decided to kill the king. And the king Vena, but he was already dead because of the blasphemy against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See, it said in the Shastras, Anybody who blasphemes Lord Vishnu is already dead. You don't have to separately kill him. He's a dead man who does not understand devotional service, who is an offender of Lord Vishnu. He's a dead man. He's not alive at all. That's what the Shastra is saying. But we see him moving, we see people doing so many things. That is not life. If to put things in perspective, Shukadeva Goswami says this. Are the beasts not living? If there's a bull on the street, right, or a donkey on the street, it's also living. Are the beasts not living? Are the trees not living? What is the use of such a life without Krishna consciousness? Without a moment of Krishna consciousness, what is the use of a prolonged life? Even if you have 100 years, 150 years, what is the use of it if you cannot remember Krishna for one moment? Even one moment of Krishna consciousness is better, Shukadeva Goswami says. And these people who are not using their hands in the worship of Lord, their hands are not hands. They are the hands of a dead body. A dead body has got hands, but that is not significant. Hands are meant to be worshipping the Supreme Lord. Why do we have hands? 10 fingers. We have these 10 fingers and these hands functional to worship the Supreme Lord, to clean the altar of the Supreme Lord, not for anything else. That's the purpose. Right? What is the use of these ears if somebody is not hearing the Supreme Personality of God? It's glorification. They are the ears of a snake, Shukadeva Goswami says. Snake has got ears. We know the snake doesn't have any ears. But even if it has got, they are non-functional, useless. Ears are not meant for hearing some gossip. Ears are not meant for talking some Gramya Katha, right? Some political gossip. No, ears are meant for hearing the glorification of the Lord. That is why Supreme Lord has very mercifully gave his form, the two-handed form. The human beings have the two-handed form, which is the form of the Supreme Lord. It's given his form and advanced intelligence for us to glorify the Lord, to use our mouth in glorification of the Lord, to hear the story of the Lord, right? Not for any other purpose, right? So here is saying anybody who is blaspheming is as good as dead people. Those who are not Krishna conscious, they are not living also. We can consider they are dead, the living dead. Just like you can think of them like zombies. We see zombies like, if you imagine some dead bodies walking, doing some daily chores, it doesn't matter at all. Right? And then what happened? Then they decided to kill King Vena by simply cursing him. They decided to curse him. And then all these wages, they cursed him and they killed him. So they used to be so powerful those days. The mantra utterance is so powerful at that time, not now. The mantra is so powerful that there are so many things that you can achieve with the help of mantra, right? And these sages were very experts in pronouncing those mantras. But now in this Kali Yuga, it's not possible to chant these mantras, right? And it is not possible that we can chant a mantra and make it Brahmastra now. It is not possible, right? But the spiritual mantras, Krishna mantras, are of a different category. They are spiritual in nature. They always work. And particularly in Kali Yuga, they work. Krishna's mantra is always transcendental. In Kali Yuga, it is more recommended. That Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam. Kalau nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatiranyatha. In this age of Kali, it is the topmost religious principle to chant the names of Krishna. This is the topmost principle. This principle can only be taught in a bona fide disciplic succession. If you hear from a non-bona fide disciplic succession, you will not hear this message that you should be chanting the names of Krishna. You'll hear some other deviant message and become deviated and not get the best benefit. So when there is something where the best, the most important thing is missed, then what is the use of such spiritual life, right? And then what happened? Let's go back to the story. The same saintly people, after taking bath in the river Saraswati, began to perform their daily worship, daily duties, and then they sat on the banks of river and they began to talk about the transcendental person and his pastimes. They did their morning duties, oblations, fire sacrifices, etc. And then they began to talk about Krishna. See, that is the final goal, okay? That is what they like to do. The sage people, the saintly people, they want to glorify Supreme Personality of God. And whatever ritualistic process that they are doing, that is karma kanda, is also the worship of Krishna in a different way, right? So ultimately, this is what they're doing. They start to talk about Supreme Lord and his pastimes, right? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? He says that the devotees are always conversing about him, right? Matchitta madgata prana bodayanta paraspara kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So the great devotees, they are always thinking about Krishna, always conversing with each other about the story of Krishna, right? And they are very becoming pleased, happy. And but the problem is they have killed the king. Where there is no king, there is anarchy, right? Just like our neighboring country. If there is no king, if there is anarchy, there is so much of disturbance there, okay? And the sages start to talk about themselves, and then the king is dead and there is no protector in the world. Misfortune may befall the people in general on account of rogues and thieves. Now they start to think about the people. Now what's going to happen to the people now? See, anarchy is a very dangerous situation, okay? Just imagine this. If there are so many riots, if there is political instability, political crisis, civil war happening, what do you think? If there is some kind of a crime that happens, you go to the police station and knock the doors of the police station and say, police, please help me. Do you think the police will help you in that political instability? If there is no king and if there is chaos, anarchy going on, the plunderers and thieves are on the streets and there is nobody to stop them, do you think at that point of time, if you go to court and file one paper and say, sir, help me, they'll help you? Right? Nobody can help at that point of time. It's a very, very troubled time, right? Because the rogues and thieves will be on the go, right? So that's what all the people were actually suffering because of that. And they thought, what should we do now, right? And then there was a dust storm. There was so much of dust storm that was created because of the running of the thieves and rogues who were plundering the citizens. Dust storm has come because of the thieves running. You can imagine how many thieves have come. So when there is anarchy, the thieves and rogues will come outside. This is a lesson that we have to learn. When the leader is not very strong, the thieves, rogues, all these mischievous people, they will have their run, right? That is why the leader should be strong. The king should be very strong. If the king is very strong, they'll be subdued like anything, right? And then they cannot do anything, right? Otherwise, all these mafias, the kings, the mafias, the dacoits, the thieves, they'll do plundering, cheating, all kinds of things, right? And they saw the dust storm and they understood, oh my God, something is very bad. It's all irregular. It is because of the death of King Vena. Now, because there is no government, there's no law and order, and these thieves and rogues are going and murdering people, plundering them of the riches. It happens all the time, right? We've heard these stories. There'll be mafias who will just come and put a knife and say, give us your money. And there's nothing else to be done. Whom can we contact? Nobody. There's no king. There's no working government. There's no law and order. And sometimes even after giving the money, they'll kill. That is the thing. So then they thought, shall we kill these people now? Right? First they killed the king. Now they're thinking, shall we all do some more curses? Let's prepare some mantras, put them all together and kill them. And thought, no, this is not the right thing to do. This is not our duty. We did that because there was nobody else who was doing it. It's not the duty of sages that now, for every pickpocketer, they'll go and do some mantras. Or for every murderer or some convicts, the sages will come out and start cursing each and every convict. That is not their business at all. The business of the sages is to be in Krishna consciousness, right? Do their sadhana, right? But they had to intervene because the political instability was so obvious, and they had to check the king because people were getting troubled. But when they try to kill the king, there's a new problem now. It's anarchy, and the thieves and murderers have come. This is what happens in the material world. Okay, you try to solve one problem, there's another problem that comes. Right? For example, if you have acidity and you start taking antacids, you'll have a different problem. There's something else happens to your body because of the side effect of the medicine. Material world is like that. Prahlad Maharaj also says, if you try to solve a problem, he says to Lord Narsimhadev, this material world is like this, that when we go and try to solve the problem, the solution becomes the new problem. What do you do? There's no way to solve the problem in the material world. Okay, the real solution is get out of this place. This is not a place fit for gentlemen. This is what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say. This material world is not fit for gentlemen. It is only fit for rogues and thieves. That's it. Or the ignorant people. Anybody who is a good, kind-hearted person, nice person, would not like to stay in this material world at all. Not staying in this material world doesn't mean simply dying. It means to go back to Godhead. To go back to Godhead, there is a process. The process is always remember Krishna. Whatever work you're doing, remember Krishna. And at the time of leaving the body, if you remember Krishna, we'll go back to Godhead. That is the process. But by artificially trying to solve each and every problem, that's what we are doing, okay? We're trying to solve, okay, we see, okay, the government is not giving me this, okay, let me do this. Okay, they're not giving me this, okay, let me do this. Okay, they're not giving me this, okay, let me do this. We can try, okay, it's good, we must try. I won't say we should not try. But the real attempt to save ourselves and our families is to get into Krishna consciousness. That is the real way of saving them. Artificial means we can go on, we can keep on trying, but it's actually a waste of time. It creates new problems, right? So then they're thinking, what should we do now? Think if we keep on cursing each and every rogue and thief here, all our powers will go, right? Because the spiritual power is like water. If there's a crack pot, all the water will leak out. So one by one, if they go to every police station and start cursing 1, 2, 3, they lose all their powers. They said it's not our business. Then they thought, okay, we should do something. Let's do something. This is a family of a saintly king Anga. Anga was a very saintly king, and this is the lineage of the Anga. And unfortunately, there is a black sheep. It's King Vena. But just because of that, we should not be deterred. We should continue this family line because it's a very powerful family line, right? And whoever is going to be born are going to be devotees in this family line, right? And the word that has been used here is called Amogha Virya. Amogha Virya means the pious seminal succession of the twice born families of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. Right, so so that's the reason why Prabhupada writes in the purport here that there should be Garbhadhana Samskara, which is for conceiving a kid. Okay, by doing Garbhadhana Samskara, we can have pious people. Okay, and then after making that decision, the saintly kings and sages churned the thighs of the dead body of King Vena. As a result of churning, a dwarf-like person was born from King Vena's body. Right? Now, what is this churning? Let's try to understand. Okay. So, something very interesting. Okay, it's beyond our science at the moment. So they churned the thighs of a dead body, right? And there was a person who was born from there, right? Now, the purport says the great sages and the saintly people could beget another person from the body of the dead King Vena, but it was not possible to bring them to bring King Vena to life. They could not bring King Vena to life, but they could bring some person from his body. Now we speak about DNA, right? We speak about DNA, cloning, etc. Something like that, something very advanced that they're doing. Okay, the Indian processes are very advanced. It's just that they have been put down by the Western scholars because of their racist mentality. But originally, all the philosophy, all the science, everything originally came from India. Let us understand this, including the Pythagoras theorem and the pi. Everything is there in our scriptures, right? Which was there, which was, people, Western scholars stole things from here and they put their names and they wrote the papers. And then we study these in the textbooks and we belittle ourselves and we think, oh, we are fools. They are very intelligent, right? So we don't know some very advanced technique that they were using, which is not yet discovered by the scientists, like bringing life from the DNA, that too from a dead body. So from that DNA, from that dead body, they are able to bring out a person in that disciplic succession. They're able to bring about life, right? So that is something which is beyond our understanding at the moment, how they were able to do it, right? And then there was a dwarf-like person who was born from King Vena's body. Okay, and then this person who came was called Bahuka, and his complexion was as black as crow. It's a very dark complexion person, and all the limbs of his body were very short. His arms and legs were very short, and his jaws were large. His nose was flat, and his eyes were reddish, and his hair is copper colored. The description of Bahuka. And he was very submissive and meek, and he bowed down and he asked, sirs, what should I do now? Right? And the great sages said, Nishida. Nishida means sit down, Nishida. And that's how Nishida, the father of Naishada race, was born. There's a race called Naishada or Nishada. The race is born from this, the original father of the Naishada race. It started from when they asked, what should I do? They said, Nishida, sit down. You just sit down. I'll tell you what. That's how the Nishada race has come. Okay. And after his birth, immediately he took charge of all the resultant actions of King Vena's sinful activities. As such, Naishada classes are always engaged in sinful activities like stealing, plundering, and hunting. Consequently, they are allowed to live in the hills and the forests. There is a certain race of people called Nishada, right? And these people stay in the hills and forests. Like Nishad. When we hear of Nishad, we remember the Nishada king from Ramayana, right? Nishada king from Ramayana is a different story, right? He's a devotee. But in general, the Nishadas are sinful and they are addicted to sinful activities. Now, a lot of people, somebody can get this question: how are you classifying somebody as sinful? It's not nice. Why are you saying somebody is sinful, somebody is pious? Everybody is a good person. See, who is sinful and who is not is based on the habits. If they have got sinful habits, we should call them sinful. As simple as that. And if they've got pious habits, we call them pious. Right? But of course, a person who is a Pandita, he is Samadarshina. A Pandita is or a great sage. He doesn't see the disqualification also. He ignores the disqualification. I mean, even if somebody is sinful, he doesn't see the sinful as is that this person is a sinner. He doesn't see like that. Samadarshina. He sees with a equal vision. But that doesn't mean that a Pandita is a fool. He doesn't understand what's the difference between a sin and pious. He understands very well what is sin, what is pious. But out of his magnanimity, he chooses not to see with a differentiated vision. This should be our approach. We should be knowing what is sin, what are sinful habits, and who are called sinners. But at the same time, we should not look with that vision. We should look like the Pandita Samadarshina. Choose not to see that sinful qualification, and we should try to preach Krishna consciousness. Okay, that should be our mood. Okay, so this is the story. And ultimately, it concluded here at this point. It's going to continue. More interesting stuff is going to happen. Very interesting things are going to happen. Okay, and Lord Vishnu is going to be born. Okay, we'll see all of that in the upcoming class. So that was the class for today, devotees. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you found the class useful and inspiring. If you want to share something, or if I said something wrong, please correct me. Or if you want to add something, please feel free to add.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, the class was superb, superb, superb. You have already introduced in the realms of stem cell what is happening in the present situation.
That's
The
what stem
moment the
cell. Okay.
baby is, yes, Prabhuji, the moment the baby is born,
Yes.
now there are walls where we store gold and all. Now there are walls where the egg and whatever it is, they get stored and they are frozen and they are preserved. Should the child get anything, any complication, even should the child be born as diabetic, it can be treated by way of this. To that level, they have stolen our technology and our wisdom. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you for your comment. Thank you, Mataji. It was a nice, interesting comment. It's called stem cell. Yeah. Thanks. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhuji, yeah, the class was very, very nice. Got a lot of examples with what is happening currently with and how to relate to what happened in Srimad Bhagavatam. I just have one question. This Eklavya I've heard was from this Nishat community.
Yeah, possibly. Yes.
Okay, that's what I read somewhere. So I just wanted to. Okay,
Yes, Mataji.
thank you. And that's how Dronacharya didn't want him to, be the best, and that's the reason he
It's
asked
one
him
of
to
the.
cut
It could be
his.
one of the reasons. It could be one of the reasons.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yes, Dhanavad Pranams. Anybody else? Anything else that you want to say before we close? Okay, devotees, thank you very much for joining. Hare Krishna. So let us all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Hare.
Rama,
Hare
Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, in conclusion, I just want to say something that there is always demoniac forces. Okay, we are staying in a material world. Material world means dark world, darkness, and sometimes there are demoniac forces who will conquer. Sometimes the divine forces will conquer. But for the divine forces to get power, we should do some divine activities, right? Auspicious activities. The foremost among them is the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. This is the only way by which we can eliminate the darkness of the material world. Of course, our business is not to change the material world to spiritual world. Our business is to go back to Godhead. But as long as we are here to protect ourselves from this dark world, we should keep chanting, right? So that we are protected, and we also help the other living entities to spread light here and peace, and then we can ultimately go back to Godhead. So with this message, I would like to conclude. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.